everybody. We are back for another episode of Pickin Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by my friend Tom. Tom, how are you today?
I'm still getting over the fact that Dustin Poirier was knocked out by Justin Gaethje via a head kick that Kamaru Usman was initially knocked out by. So I heard a lot of good breakdowns about maybe why that might be. Perhaps Justin Gaethje was trying to give Kamaru a look similar to Leon Edwards, thinking it was going to be coming back, and he just picked it up himself. Very interesting dynamic there. Actually, a really, really good UFC 291 card. How about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson not getting paid even though he made weight? I understand what's going on. The UFC probably doesn't want to pay him because they want to encourage people taking the fight so the card stays together, even if the opponent misses weight. But I agree with Wonderboy. That's on Pereira's fault. So punish him for missing weight. Don't punish Wonderboy. Like, he made weight. Like, what the hell is your show bonus, your win bonus for? Your win pay? Or you have your show pay and your win pay. What the hell is my show pay if I'm showing up and not getting paid?
That's a valid point. Yeah, because he did show up.
He showed up. He was ready to fight. He just didn't want to fight someone who he's 40 years old. He didn't want to fight somebody who didn't make weight and missed it by 2.5, 3 pounds, whatever it was, and tried to give himself an advantage. He makes a good point saying we've seen this happen far too many times, that people don't have enough consequences, so they skimp on the weight cut. They come in there heavier. Their body's not as drained as the other person who had to do it. You're not abiding by the same rules or stipulations. And then Wonderboy specifically, he's had a past experience where he lost when he decided to fight and he made weight and his opponent didn't. So, yeah, of course he's not going to make the same mistake twice. And to deny him pay is ridiculous. They should pay him, say they go, all right, we'll pay you half of your show bonus and we'll schedule for your fight in the next 3 weeks.
Do backup fighters get paid like for championship?
They get their show money.
So then why is he not being paid? Because he did everything he had to do. And if the backup fighters are getting paid and they know they're most likely not going to fight, and he came in there not only just cutting weight, but also prepared to fight, like knowing that it's crazy.
Yeah, it makes no sense why he would get paid. The only reasoning that I could understand from the UFC from a business perspective is, hey, if you are presented with a situation where your opponent didn't make weight, they obviously want to keep the fight together and they want to keep the card as intact as possible.
Yeah.
You deciding not to fight because your opponent missed weight hurts the UFC in terms of trying to keep that card together and keep it organized, and creates a scramble for them, and it makes their lives harder. So I think they may be, in a way, trying to discourage the decision that Wonderboy made. But in reality, that's bullshit, because if you have a show bonus or a show pay, it's not even a bonus, you have your show pay and you show, you should get paid. Otherwise, what the fuck is the point of the pay structure?
Yeah. That's
unless it's showing up to the cage. But regardless, it should be that if you show up and you make weight, you're going to get paid X dollar. And if your opponent doesn't, then the incentive for you to fight when the opponent doesn't make weight is because you're taking their show bonus. You should take their entire show bonus.
Yeah, you should take the whole purse.
The whole show bonus. If they end up winning, then they can get a win bonus. But if you miss weight, you are no longer eligible for post-fight bonuses. And the only way you leave that making any money whatsoever is if you win.
Well, imagine how hard that guy fights at that point.
Sure, but at the end of the day, you're in a cage match with another professional fighter. You're trying to win anyway.
Yeah. No, I know. But just imagine if that's your only option to make money. Some of these guys, there's some guys in the UFC that are a little bit.
A lot of these guys are not missing weight or missing weight because they're choosing to miss weight, not because it's a genuine, sometimes that happens, right? It's a genuine issue, something with the diet, and giving that guy the opportunity to still make some money by getting his win, cool. But that's at least enough of a punishment to try and prevent people, to try and prevent people from, doing it again or trying to be strategic and missing weight. I feel for Wonderboy. And I think I'm biased in this case because it is Wonderboy, but I also think I would feel this way no matter who it is, because at the end of the day, it's horseshit that he doesn't get paid.
Yeah, he's been in the UFC for a long time. I'm surprised that it went down like this. But
did you see what he said to Ariel today? And I don't particularly love Ariel, but he was talking to Ariel, and he's like, listen, to this point, my management's in talks with the UFC. I think they're waiting for Dana to get back from his vacation. But nothing has been paid yet. But I've done everything that the UFC has ever asked of me, both for this fight and fights in the past and over my 10 or whatever year career. I trust that the UFC is going to do right by me, because, I've always done right by them. And it was just a very Stephen Wonderboy Thompson way of saying, yo, you guys, should really like, come on,
Give me some money. Yeah. No, you're right.
like how are you going to screw me? So
Yeah, there were some other highlights from like positive highlights from
mhm.
291 though, like
Derek
the
Lewis,
yeah, well, Derek Lewis, absolutely. Like what a
flying
career!
knee. How about
What,
that? He
what a
just bought himself
career!
3 more fights in the UFC.
Yeah, what a career resurrection that he had
Yeah,
over the weekend. Crazy. Like he
exactly.
comes out with abs. He has an iconic moment after the fight, taking his pants off again, and the crowd goes nuts. And
The DX thing.
yeah, and the way that the camera panned out, like from him to the whole crowd, and he's just in his underwear, was something out of a movie. Like kudos to whoever put that camera on him and like was calling the shots.
Made that
You
choice.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, that was great. And then yeah, Roman Kopylov, what a head kick there.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of Gabriel Bonfim,
Mm-hmm.
incredible
Going out, getting it done, not
Oh,
letting his
oh my
brother's
God.
stumbles
Yeah, and
eat
then
into him.
Jake Matthews, the Celtic Kid, against
Mm-hmm.
Darius Flowers. That was kind of weird. The way that one ended, with
Mm-hmm.
Darius Flowers claiming nut shot, and then you just see Jake Matthews' toes go directly into his kidney, and
Yeah, and then and the announcers at the end were trying to be like, well, maybe his heel caught the cup, but I like how Jake Matthews was like, nah, fuck this, just went out there and just
yeah,
got it done. It made it not matter.
right. And then Darius Flowers, first fight in the UFC. I think it was a short notice fight, but he tapped before Jake Matthews like even really had that choke in. So you could tell like he was done after that one kick. That fight was over after that. But he's incredible. I like Jake Matthews. I didn't even realize the guy has been in the UFC since he's 19.
Jake
Crazy.
Matthews.
Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
he's had a long UFC career and it's been up
Yeah.
and down, but we've seen a much improved version of him over his last few fights, even though they're not all wins. The opposite of seeing an improvement is Tony Ferguson.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He hasn't looked good. It's not like he's going out there fighting good fights and he's just not getting the decision or he's just not getting the outcome he's looking for. He's not going out there and he's not looking good either. He's
He looks
looking old. He
Yeah.
looks like this is like catching up to him. His strikes don't have, even though he was able to wobble Bobby Green a couple of times, you're like, but
Right.
he
There
just
were
didn't
those
have the
moments.
speed to follow up on those.
Yeah, there were definitely those moments. The reason I brought up the fact like, oh, Jake Matthews got in when he was 19 is because I feel like we've been watching him forever.
Right.
It's been 9 years that he's been in the UFC. But Tony Ferguson also, yeah, feels like we've been watching him forever. And but he looked old. Like, bro, it was like sad to watch. It looked like somebody needed to take old Yeller out back behind the barn and just, like somebody's got to get in Tony's ear and be like, yo, dude, it's over. You can't do this anymore.
Just the way he moves around the cage.
It's so slow. And
it looks like he was moving the way he moved in the 4th or 5th round against Justin Gaethje, but he hadn't absorbed any damage yet.
right.
Just like that weird sidestep stumble. And like, I don't know, man. Like, it's really hard to watch. I can't imagine the UFC would give him another fight in any capacity because I don't even know if he's that much of a draw anymore. 6 fight losing streak at this point. Like,
he's not. And like this was the fight that he really had to win to make people like interested in him again, or like now at this point, if his name is on a card, it becomes like
I'm cringing.
Yeah,
I'm not excited. I'm like, oh, Tony's fighting. I'm like, oh, Tony's fighting. Like,
right. We're gonna see elder abuse. That's what it looked like, bro.
I felt the same way when they said Evander Holyfield is fighting. I was like, oh.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where we're at with Tony now. It's just, and it gets sadder and sadder with every fight. Like he looked serviceable against Michael Chandler, and then he looked really like he looked like a little bit better against Nate Diaz than he did on Saturday. He's really regressing badly with every fight.
Yeah, badly. Who is it? I think he owns a gym. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Famous UFC fighter, UFC legend, owns a gym. I know that probably describes like 7 different guys. But recently it came out that he might be having another fight, and he showed a video of him like throwing punches, and literally in his like hot hype video, he's like tries to transition backwards and like stumbles and then picks himself back up.
God.
You know what I'm talking about? You know who I'm
No,
talking about?
no, but it sounds bad already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like a few ideas in mind. Like who's that guy that just got sober and he credits the Liver King, old time UFC legend. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It was
I
like
didn't even
before
hear
my
about
time.
that. I'm trying to pull it up. I don't even know what to Google in order to find it. I need Jamie
Yeah,
for the Joe Rogan experience here.
right, right.
This is so much harder than he makes it look.
Yeah, well, usually because Jamie has like some idea of who Joe Rogan is referring to.
I know who I'm thinking of. I just can't.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but
Anyway,
yeah, there's
if
a
I
lot of
remember
guys
it,
that should retire. I mean, it's
if I
crazy. Like,
remember.
oh, you got it?
No, I said if I remember, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Tony is one of those guys. Like, it's we're at a point, but he's gonna keep fighting though, because that's just who Tony Ferguson is. You can't give it up.
I think Tony Ferguson would maybe have a better like go of it if he did something maybe more towards like boxing or I don't know.
I think he would have
It's
to
just
do. I think he would have to do something more towards grappling because, well, I don't know. He can't really get submitted by Bobby Green and then go on to do. I just don't think he can do anything.
Mark Coleman.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Have
who
you
I was.
seen the? I'm going to pull up this video of Mark Coleman saying he's making a comeback, and it's just the same exact way. If I heard Tony Ferguson was fighting again, it's like, oh, why? Please, no.
Mark Coleman just went through a whole thing where he got sober, but he credits his sobriety to the Liver King. And
This is Mark Coleman said that.
I'm almost positive. Yeah.
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 The Liver King is who you're credited as getting you sober. The guy who just lied about taking steroids for the past who knows how long.
Yeah, and that was like pre all that stuff. And if you look at his Instagram, I'm pretty sure it's him. He always like credits the Liver King with helping him, like inspiring him for sobriety. I don't know.
I'm just trying to find this video of Mark Coleman like saying he's like coming back. Here it is. Yeah, dude. I'm trying to get the video. I just have this little picture, but like you could tell that like that's not a guy I want to see fight. Like this
No,
obviously is just a screen grab, but you know you can see how like in his hype video he's like he stumbles back. It's like
bro, he looks like he's falling down.
He is. He was stumbling back. He caught himself.
Like it looks like an ad for like Life Alert. Like he's falling in the first picture, and in the second picture, he's telling you about how Life Alert saved him.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. I got the video.
Oh, okay. Well,
this isn't. That's not a 58-year-old who should be fighting anybody here. You know, like I mean,
no,
listen,
wait,
58.
I have an idea.
Move decent.
I have an idea. He should fight Tony Ferguson.
They move so similar. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they should fight each other.
Like this is not that. That's not acceptable.
That would be a great fight, the two of them. Like you just have two old guys that move like really. I mean, Tony Ferguson's not even that old though. It's so sad.
Tony Ferguson's 39 now. So
I don't want to dwell on this.
Yeah,
it's so crazy, bro. Just a couple of years ago, he was like the #1 contender.
Yeah, time flies, man.
Bro, lit the world on fire. He was like 26-2 5 years ago.
It was 11, 12, 13 fight win streak. Like he just was. He was literally El Kukui. He was the boogeyman. Speaking of the boogeyman, Glover Teixeira and Alex Potan Pajeda going in there saying "fuck you" yet again to Israel Adesanya. You'd be like, "Oh, this guy beat you? Well, I'm going to go beat him." And guess what? Grappling wasn't that easy for Jan.
Yeah, that's true. Jan Blachowicz looked really tired throughout the fight, and like
definitely at the end. Definitely at the end.
Yeah, yes, like midway through the second on, like there were a couple things that he was trying to get done and he couldn't, and he expended a lot of energy like trying to grapple and take Pajeda down. But I think if he didn't look so tired, like he kept fighting. He's very mentally tough. He kept pushing forward, but because he was so tired, his body language was like kind of pathetic. You know, like he's exhausted. It just looked poor.
It's Salt Lake, I get it, but like it
definitely
didn't help with the
crazy
judges.
there. Yeah, I think if he would have looked like he didn't, expend his gas tank by the end of the fight, and his body language was good, and he didn't take a couple of shots that he did in the third round. I think he could have won that fight, but
Yeah, but also, I mean, can we talk about the size difference between him and Pereira? I mean, Pereira looked huge compared to Jan, like
yeah,
gigantic. Like he looked like he was 1.2 times bigger than him. Like if those two humans were supposed to be the same size, he got like a 20% increase somehow.
yeah,
Like he just looked 20% bigger than Jan.
yeah. I feel like he. I mean, maybe Jan does too. Um, and also, we're used to seeing Alex at 185, which I think made him look so much bigger.
I'm just talking more about height and frame, like not
Yeah.
even like
I think he
thickness.
stands. The way that he stands is a little bit more. His chest is a little out. He stands a little bit more upright, and he kind of walks guys down. But Jan Blachowicz is in a little bit more of like an athletic stance at
He just
times.
looks so big, dude.
Yeah, he
He just
does.
looks
He does
so much
look
bigger.
massive.
Like
Yeah.
against a legitimate 205er, and no one's questioning if Jan's like, oh, he's a small light heavyweight. It's like, no, Jan's a legitimate light heavy. And he just kind of dwarfed, he was dwarfed by Alex Pereira. Like, I mean, that guy, and his grappling, it's getting better and better. He's, doing like life-threatening river adventure wrestling sessions with whatever Glover is doing. I mean, Glover is just the perfect guy for him to, they got the Brazilian connection, perfect guy in terms of grappling to teach him. He doesn't need to know anything about striking, obviously. And then now he's going to go and fight Yuri. Dude, he's going to knock Yuri out. Yuri gets hit. He's going to knock Yuri the fuck out. And he's going to be the two-weight champion, two-weight UFC champion, two-weight Glory kickboxing champion. I think he was the first, actually, two-weight simultaneous kickboxing champion in Glory.
I have my own thoughts about how Yuri Prochazka and Alex Pereira is going to go down.
Can you not even agree that if Alex wins that fight,
it's going to be sick.
Probably the greatest martial artist of all time, most accomplished martial arts athlete of all time?
Yeah, he's definitely up there. He's definitely. I don't want to say. I don't know. Like,
who's better?
I don't know. Maybe there is somebody better that I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll agree with you. He's definitely like it puts him on like GOAT status for sure. Like,
see that lightning?
Yeah, I saw a big strike before too in the background, but I wasn't sure what it was. But yeah, I would definitely put him up there on like Mount Rushmore status if that happens. But he's got to get there first, and I think he showed like a couple of holes in his striking actually. I think against Jan Blachowicz, like I think his left hand is very strong, and then there's a lot of and his leg kicks are really good. But he
didn't do as good with checking leg kicks. His lead leg was getting beat up a lot by Jan. I did notice that.
Yeah.
And I think that limited his mobility and probably limited his power too, because his lead leg. So you're not going to throw as strong off of it. So I think that was probably Jan's thought, is like, if we could damage the left leg, that left hook, that left hand doesn't present as much of a threat.
Yeah. He didn't really land as much damage on Jan Blachowicz as I thought he was going to.
For the amount that they ended up staying striking, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Hey, he almost finished him at the end of the second.
That's true. Yeah, he did.
He had him hurt. If there was a couple more seconds there, or if he hadn't just been knocked out by Israel Adesanya, I think he would have done a lot of flurries there. He would have unleashed, and he could have gotten a victory there. So he was, a couple seconds and a couple punches and a little bit of aggression away from, getting the KO of Jan, which is what
he definitely did learn from that Izzy fight, because Jan Blachowicz in that situation, like, he'll put his lights out faster and harder than Izzy did.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, the Izzy fight with Jan wasn't even competitive, really.
No,
not from the third round on.
No, not at
very
all.
Tight. So and I think Jan probably presented the biggest challenge outside of maybe an Alexander Rakic but Rakic is probably going to go out there and strike with you anyway. So who has an advantage over Pereira if you're striking? I mean, what are the big grapplers at light heavyweight?
I mean, Magomed Ankalaev can grapple,
but he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. He like
Jan was like probably the strongest wrestling, and
I don't know. Not a couple of years ago. There's a couple of guys you could have rattled off, like Anthony Smith, but he doesn't have it in him now.
But you just look at the top of the division, and I can pull this up. You look at the top of the division. You got Jamal Hill, who's no longer the champion. Oh, you can't see it on the screen.
It's all good. Just read them off.
Jamal Hill, who's the champion. You have Yuri Prochazka, Magomed Ankalaev, Jan Blachowicz, Alexander Rakic, Nikita Krylov, Johnny Walker, Anthony Smith. I mean, he's going to beat Anthony Smith with stand-up, and Anthony Smith is not going to be able to take him down. Johnny Walker, you could say everything times two that you said about Anthony Smith. Nikita Krylov, again, another striker. Alexander Rakic, another striker. A lot of these guys have some grappling, especially a wrestling ability like Magomed Ankalaev. But again, like he's got like a sambo background, sambo wrestling. I'm not sure that if Jan struggled to get him down, that Magomed Ankalaev is not going to be able to get,
well, you're right.
Get him down right away. I think he's going to have to fight. He's going to have to fight to get him down.
Jan Blachowicz is definitely the most dynamic challenge, I think, in the light heavyweight division. And he's I don't know. I mean, he says it was like robbery. Obviously, he like truly believes that. I think you could make the case that he maybe won that fight. And you could definitely point out a couple of reasons why he didn't. Like, there's a few specific things you could point to. But, yeah, definitely the most dynamic challenge. And yeah, Alexander Rakic, you're right, too. Yeah, he's really dynamic as well. But Yuri,
so, yeah, but we haven't seen Rakic come back since he, like, shattered his knee.
Yeah, he blew up his knee, that's right. Yeah, I think Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira is going to be very fun. I think when Jamal Hill comes back, a fight, a little trifecta between the three of them is going to be very fun like that. I think they're going to end up running that back. Those guys are definitely going to be on a little bit of a carousel there for a little bit, but that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Yuri Prochazka, I think, presents challenges for both Jamal Hill and Pereira, and they all present weird challenges for each other. So it's going to be fun when they're all ready to go. You want to jump into this card and get started?
Yeah, I'm with it. Let's finally get to talk about UFC Fight Night. I don't know if there's a number, but UFC Fight Night, Nashville, Sandhagen versus Rob Font.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, first fight up. We actually didn't even talk about which ones that we were taking as terms of prelim locks, prelim notables. So I'll just hand it over to you. Which one? There's only 5 of them. So which ones you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about Kyler Phillips and Raoni Barcelos first. I know that's a little bit further up the card. We're definitely going to jump back a little bit, but I feel pretty good about Kyler Phillips in this fight. We haven't seen him fight in over a year, whereas Raoni Barcelos just fought 6 months ago against Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar Nurmagomedov is a savage. He knocked out Raoni Barcelos. Kyler Phillips, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's Sean O'Malley's, or at least at one point was Sean O'Malley's grappling partner. Am I wrong about that?
That I didn't know.
Yeah, I know he's out in Arizona, out of MMA Lab. I just want to check this out real quick because I think he.
I mean, that would make sense, right? If they're both in that same area.
Yeah. I want to say I'm right about it, but there's a lot of good guys training out of MMA Lab anyway. You have Brian Barberena, Alex Caceres, Sean O'Malley. So almost positive about that because Kyler Phillips is he's pretty good at grappling. So it would make sense, same weight class and everything. He's a guy he's on the rise, but he's not like that marketable guy. So, he doesn't have the same trajectory as an O'Malley type of guy. And he's fought a couple of names in the division too. Like Song Yadong is a pretty good name. Julian Paiva, that's how I knew that actually, because they had both fought Julian Paiva. Anyways, the grappling advantage is definitely for Kyler Phillips this week. He likes to take guys down, put them in really uncomfortable positions, ground and pound mainly actually. And he does look for submissions, but as of recently, it's just been, he's trying to deliver damage on the ground while he's on top. What do you think about this one, Tom?
Yeah, I think the things that stick out to me most are the fact that, Raoni Barcelos is 36 years old. He hasn't looked really that great in any particular fight in a few years, getting knocked out by Umar Nurmagomedov 6 months ago. I think he has a win over Saeed Nurmagomedov back in 2019 or 2020 that I was just taking a little gander at. But, the other loss to Timur Valiev, Victor Henry, he got back in the winning column against Trevin Jones. And then, like I said, lost recently to Umar Nurmagomedov. He's mainly a striker. He's got some good ground game. But I think Kyler Phillips is probably better on the ground or just as good, competent. And when it comes to the striking, I think Kyler Phillips is pretty well versed there as well. I think at 28 years years old, stepping into his prime here. He's a moderate favorite. I don't know if he's going to be able to go out there and finish Raoni Barcelos. I think the Umar Nurmagomedov threat of the takedown, and then the great leg kicks that he possesses, I think definitely presented an interesting challenge for Raoni that maybe Kyler doesn't present as much. But I think being the younger fighter, being the quicker fighter, I think this is one that Kyler's going to take in a 3-round decision.
Yeah, so do I. I just think it's just going to be steady top control out of Kyler Phillips. What do you got next, Tom?
One I want to talk about, Billy Quarantillo and taking on Damon Jackson, is a classic matchup of Billy Quarantillo, who's actually a pretty strong grappling whiz. I think he's been on some of the Fury Pro Grappling cards. He lost to Clay Guida, so not the best. He had a back and forth fight with Shane Burgos in which he actually looked really good in that fight. He did a lot better than I was expecting. He lost to Edson Barbosa, and Edson Barbosa is still quick and still has that power. They went in a back and forth fight where he was landing a lot on Edson as well. Billy Quarantillo is a guy who is going to put himself into harm's way in order to have a fun fight. And he's like a Justin Gaethje, like a diet Justin Gaethje, where he'll go out there. He's got some good grappling. He'll use that more than maybe Justin Gaethje would. He'll use that if he needs to use it, but he wants to go out there and he wants to bang. He's going to have a good boxing combinations, mix in some of the leg kicks. Throw a couple of knees, throw a couple of clinches. He's coming out there to scrap. Whereas Damon Jackson, when he goes out there to scrap and to try and fight, he usually gets knocked out. He's not that accomplished on the feet. He's got a decent game, but in fact, when he went out and he got that win over Pat Sabatini, where he ran out, knocked him down, and was able to get that ground and pound win, it was super emotional. It happened like within the first minute of the fight. I think Pat Sabatini just wasn't able to get going. It just happened so quickly, and I think Damon Jackson had a lot of outside extra motivation for that fight. I think he was going through something really negative in his personal life. Nevertheless, he came out, and when he tried to fight and stand and bang with Dan Ige, he got knocked out, and Dan Ige doesn't knock out people. So I think that tells you everything you need to know about Damon Jackson's stand-up ability, and then it's just not there, especially not in line with Billy Quarantillo. He doesn't have that real knockout power unless he catches you cold, and I think Billy is going to be conscientious of that. And I think if it does go to the ground, sure, Damon Jackson's going to have the advantage, but I just don't think he's going to be able to get Billy Quarantillo to the ground for that long. And Billy is slippery. He's scrappy. I don't think he's going to have an easy time taking Billy down, and I don't think he's going to be able to capitalize and submit Billy Quarantillo. Even though he's got a couple of losses on his record, like he said, he's 17-5. He's 34 years old, so it's really hard to call him Billy the Kid. None of that has really been from him being that outmatched on the ground. And usually it's a back and forth firefight where he keeps himself in it up until the end. We haven't seen Billy really get outclassed really in any fight. Like I said, the Shane Burgos fights with back and forth. He had, he's just good at a lot of different things. Knocked out Alex Hernandez back in December. So for all those reasons, I'm going to go with Billy Quarantillo. I think he's going to win a 3-round decision, or he's going to knock out Damon Jackson by finish.
Yeah, it's a great pick. I really like Billy Q here. I feel like over the past couple of fights, he's kind of come into his own. Slippery and scrappy were really good ways to describe him, because that's exactly what he is. He's really good at getting out of really uncomfortable grappling positions, and he could bang. So it doesn't always work out for him, but he's good at standing there in the pocket and throwing shots. So I like Billy Q. And minus 175, I like the money line here, actually. I feel like it's a good parlay builder.
I like 175 for him. I think that's safe enough to where you can make a little bit of money on it. He's still obviously the favorite. And he's not a high IQ fighter because he wants to go out and he wants to have a good time and he wants to have a stand and bang scrap. But I just think Damon Jackson and his relative skill set is not going to match up well with Billy. I think he's going to be able to stand, keep it standing. And I think Damon Jackson not being that much of a power threat or a knockout threat on the feet plays right into Billy Quarantillo, piecing him up and taking some in return for sure. But I think he's going to be landing the more damaging shots and he's going to have control of the fight for probably 2, if not 3 of the rounds. Yeah,
he could get caught, but in a fight like that, against a guy like Damon Jackson, I'll take Billy Quarantillo as well. I want to talk about Jake Hadley and Cody Durden real quick. Jake Hadley lighting the world on fire. Who did he fight last? He had a really good win last time around. Malcolm Gordon. Okay, solid win. He's a setup guy. I think they had Malcolm Gordon on a couple of these cards as like a setup guy for I think it was the UK cards. They kept flying Malcolm Gordon out there. Cody Durden is probably the best fighter in the UFC that Jake Hadley will have faced up to this point. But you want to talk about dynamic. Like Jake Hadley is another guy that has crazy good hands, but he doesn't really rely on them. to help him win a fight. He's really good in grappling situations. He's got really aggressive offensive jiu-jitsu, good at locking up submissions. So I think he can get it done any of three ways against Cody Durden. Cody Durden's good competition as well. He's definitely – I think he's probably one of the better grapplers that Jake Hadley is going to fight so far in the UFC. Nobody has really presented him a challenge whatsoever in that realm. But I think Jake Hadley is better, younger. Like I said, lighting the world on fire. I expect another win out of here to make him 11-1. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think Cody Durden, the way this matches up is against another kind of slippery, scrappy ground game player versus Cody Durden, who's going to be a more traditional wrestling / boxer that throws a little bit of leg kicks. Cody Durden will try to move forward and put pressure on Jake Hadley, but I think Jake Hadley, quote unquote, White Kong. I think he'll know what to do here. Alan Nascimento, in his UFC debut, got the better of him via a decision. And I think a lot of that put Jake Hadley on the back foot and didn't allow Jake Hadley to fight the fight that he wants to do. And I think in this case, he'll, even though he's maybe going to have the smaller frame in here, I think Cody Durden's going to have more of that typical wrestling style frame with the big back and the lats and the strong legs. But I think Jake Hadley is going to have a pretty good time in terms of his stamina. So as the fight goes longer, I think he'll start to have realize more success. But I also just think at 27 years old, he is entering his prime. He's getting better faster. I think his stand-up is pretty solid as well. So I think that, he'll be able to have a competitive fight with Cody Durden, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. I just think he's a little bit better in all of those areas. I think he's a little bit quicker. He's a little bit more precise, and he's a little bit younger. And in this case, I think that's a positive for him, being 27, not young like 22, 23, where you still got a lot to learn, but 27, where you're really starting to come into your own. And against a guy like Cody Durden, who, he's got good wins over Arichi Lang. I've heard it said both ways, not 100% sure. Only lost to Muhammad Mokaev by that guillotine choke. That was back when Muhammad Mokaev is 5-0. And honestly, we see that maybe Muhammad Mokaev is not as good as we maybe thought. But, when you have Cody Durden go up against a guy who is a good grappling base, we saw it not go his way. So I think Jake Hadley coming into this, being good at grappling to kind of match what Cody Durden is putting out, I think is ultimately going to swing it in Jake Hadley's favor.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I like the pick a lot. And again, he's a minus 180 favorite, which really isn't that bad. Like a parlay between Jake Hadley, Billy Q, and Kyler Phillips. I'm looking at taking that right now. I just pulled up my phone to open up FanDuel and stake that.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with that. You got any more, or you want to move on?
I maybe would want to talk about O'Day Osborne or Jeremiah Wells and Carlston Harris on another day, but we spent so much time talking about UFC 291, the light heavyweights, that I say we go ahead and we kick it up to the main card.
All right, sounds good. Let's do it.
Ignacio Bahamondes taking on Ludovic Klein. What are you feeling on this one? Taking us to start the main card in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, I like Ignacio Bahamondes. He's a hard guy not to like just in general. He has an all-time highlight against Roosevelt Roberts with the wheel kick. Crazy. Great action. He's really creative. He's a really creative striker. He puts himself in at kicking range and uses his kicks really, really well. He's got some pretty solid jiu-jitsu on the ground as well. He's got some submission victories. He's intelligent on the ground. He's serviceable as a grappler, as a jiu-jitsu player. Ludovic Klein, solid, serviceable, right? A couple of wins in the UFC, a couple of losses as well. Mike Trezano, remember him? He was cool. I think he's out of the UFC now. And then a loss to Nate Landwehr. Last fight was a draw with Jai Herbert. I don't really remember that one, but Jai Herbert, solid fighter, pretty good. And Ludovic Klein, I remember he was I think he was on a lot of those UK cards too as a setup guy. But I like Ignacio Bahamondes to get it done. Ludovic Klein is a little bit more one-dimensional. Bahamondes, he's really good at outstriking guys to a decision. Really good at using his kicks, attacking body, head, just all over the place. Variety of strikes coming out of Bahamondes. So I'm going to roll with him this week. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think Ludwig Klein has his biggest struggles when he's going against somebody who's a little bit unorthodox, and that would describe both Jai Herbert and Nate Landwehr. Nate Landwehr catching him in that anaconda choke. I think Ludwig Klein, when it comes to scrambles or things that are not necessarily a technical boxing or striking match, is really where he develops some problems. And I think that's exactly what Ignacio Bahamondes is going to try and present to him. Coming in at 6'3" in the lightweight division, going against 5'7" Ludwig Klein. I know there's only, I think, a 2 or 3 inch reach advantage here. But with that being said, I think Ignacio Bahamondes, his length and his relative ability to be able to switch things up, like you were alluding to there, Keith, I think that's what's going to propel him to get this victory. I think he's a little bit more of a dynamic fighter. He's younger. Both of these fighters are young, so I don't know if that's going to play too much. I think the maybe inexperience of Ignacio Bahamondes may be to his detriment against Ludwig Klein, who's been in there with, some solid competition, and Ignacio Bahamondes is still kind of getting his footing in the UFC, even though he is on a 3-fight win streak. So going up against Trey Ogden in the 2 months ago, getting that decision victory, I think Ludwig Klein is certainly a step up in competition for him, but a step up that I think he's going to welcome, and I think he's going to get another decision victory.
All right, nice.
All right, we got Tanner Boser taking on Alexa Kamor. I didn't realize that Keith had dropped off. That's why there was that dead silence for a little bit. But he looks like he is back now. Welcome back, my friend.
Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. I meant to go back on Tapology, and I hit back on StreamYard, which put me back into the lobby. Next up, we got Tanner Boser versus Alexa Kamor. Did you start talking about this one at all?
No, I didn't. I was just kind of waffling until you came back.
Well, kick us off. Go for it.
Yeah, so Tanner Boser, not the most pretty record that you would like to see. However, he came back. He got knocked out by Jan Cutelaba. Jan just kind of came out and rushed him, or Ian Cutelaba. I've heard it both ways. Rodrigo Nascimento, he did look better in. He got a split decision loss there. Ovan St. Preux, he looked great, but everyone kind of looks good against OSP. Ayir Latifi, split decision. Andrei Arlovsky, decision loss. I think we saw Tanner Boser Tanner Boser took that loss to Ayir Latifi, felt that he should have got the win, was pissed off. The UFC gave him a fight, I think, shortly thereafter. Look, 2 years, 1 month, 2 years, 1 month. I think it was 2 weeks. Knocked out OSP. Felt great about himself, and then took another year off to try and get in better shape. Had a split decision with Rodrigo Nascimento, where I don't think he won that one, but it was still a close fight, and he's just getting these little bad breaks here and there, and then came back. Ian Cutelaba, he got knocked out 3 months ago. I think he was maybe a little bit overzealous in that fight, and Ian Cutelaba just goes out, and he's pretty crazy. At Tanner Boser, he's now at light heavyweight. A lot of these other ones, believe were up at heavyweight. So coming down and trying to get his diet under control, I think is definitely going to be a good thing for Tanner Boser. I believe he had abs the last time he came into the UFC octagon. So I'm excited to see what we're going to get from him, because I don't think we had a real accurate representation from the Ian Cutelaba fight. Alexa Kamor, on the other hand, this is his now third UFC fight. 1-2 so far. Lost a split decision to Nikolai Negomarianu, who's a pretty solid fighter, but that was 2 years ago. And then, almost 3 years ago, he lost a fight to William Knight, which ages just so poorly. Now, he was 24 at the time, right?
Yeah,
so this is a hard one. This is a hard one to call, because he was 24 at the time, coming in here 27, added a little bit of weight here. Maybe he was 25. 6'1" is going to be a pretty good matchup against a guy in Tanner Boser who is, has definitely been more active. Tanner Boser thrives when he can take you down and he can lay on you and he can use that ground and pound. Whereas Alexa Kamor is, he's more of a stand-up fighter. I think in this fight, Tanner Boser is probably going to be able to get him to the ground and probably going to be able to lay on him to get to a decision. If they try to stand and strike, Tanner Boser is not a guy that's known for his striking. He has a kind of heavyweight way of striking, in which case it's less than entertaining. I think if it ends up on the feet, Alexa Kamor definitely has a chance. Being 27 years old, it's really hard to know how much he's improved since then. Is he going to be able to defend the takedowns of Tanner Boser? Is his stand-up game going to be able to knock out Tanner Boser? I would say probably yes to that second question. That first question is really what's in question. So with all that being said, I'm going to have to go with Tanner Boser. He's 32 years old. He's slimming down. He's starting to take his career pretty seriously at 205 pounds. He's got decent grappling, and I think 2 years is a lot to ask for Alex Kamor to all of a sudden get back at, to get better at grappling. Naturally, he did take, 2 years off, so it's hard to know. But because it's minus 180, I would probably stay away from this fight for betting in general because of the variables that come with Kmore. But I'll probably just take Tanner Boser because of the activity, the experience, a little bit of longevity, and moving down to 205. I think he's going to take his career a little more seriously this time. What do you think, Keith?
Yeah, too many questions from Alexa Kamer, like you were just saying. I definitely agree with that point. Too much of a layoff. Tanner Boser looking a lot more athletic, a lot more lean, a lot more fit. And, I think Jan Kudalaba, he's pretty active himself. He's got strong hands. We don't know what version of Alexa Kamer is going to come in. So I'm going to roll with Tanner Boser. Yeah.
And I was just looking at this, like you have him heavyweight Felipe Lins weighing in at 235, Andrei Arlovsky 232, 242, added some muscle, 240, and then Rodrigo Nascimento 229, 203. So like he's been slowly taking his weight down. I think doing it the right way, losing the weight, building the muscle. So I'm really excited to see what Tanner Boser looks like at 205 when he's got a relatively full camp and kind of realized, like, listen, I can't start losing at 205 also. At heavyweight, I could always have the opportunity because I wasn't the biggest heavyweight to move to light heavyweight. But right now, the boats are burned. You got to go. It's go time.
Yeah, you can't go back. Gavin Tucker versus Diego Lopez up next. What do you think about this one, Tom?
Well, Gavin Tucker is an interesting fighter. He's well-rounded. He does a lot of things good. Nothing particularly great. He got knocked out by Dan Ige 2.5 years ago, so it's been a really long layoff for the 37-year-old. He is he is decent in a lot of places. He does have a strong ground game, highlighted by these 2 submissions of Sungwoo Choi and Justin James. But in terms of the striking, it's not the best. He did go back and forth with Billy Quarantillo, and where he won a decision. But again, that's 2.5 years ago. So Gavin Tucker has proven that he can kind of do it all. He can have that scrappy stand-up battle. He can fight you, on the ground and submit you. But I think when you're talking about a guy like Diego Lopez that had the start to his UFC career that he had, that we witnessed in person against Movsar Evloev on short notice, being able to, look very competent against Movsar Evloev is a really good wrestler. The fact that Diego Lopez was winning some of the exchanges on the ground, putting Movsar into some situations where Movsar really had to struggle to get out of them and engage in a scramble in order to get back to his feet. And then he wasn't necessarily winning outright on his feet either. He ended up winning the fight, but it was very, very close. And I think it said a lot about Diego Lopez being able to step in on short notice with, you're looking at a Brazilian guy fighting out of Mexico with a Justin Bieber haircut and a Ouija board looking tattoo on his chest.
Yeah, he looks like a video game created character.
He's just, he's just bringing everything in there. You look at the jaw, he's got a strong jaw. He hasn't been knocked out, I think, at the professional level. We could take a look and find it. He does have 2 losses by knockout. How long ago were they?
Everybody gets knocked out sometimes.
Yeah, back in 2018. So I think he's a much different fighter now. He's shown that he's good in a lot of different areas. I'm riding the Diego Lopez high. He's 28 years old. He's been, in the cage. He's been active, 2.5 years off for a 37-year-old. It's not great. He's also going to be 5'6", taking on 5'11" Diego Lopez. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage here. I think everything is swinging being the Diego Lopez. At only minus 135, I would hammer that line. And it looks like Technology's already doing it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take him in this fight too. I might have to add him to that parlay that I was talking about before, maybe make it a 4-legger, because all those lines are really sweet, and it's all guys that can kind of do it all. Diego Lopez, Movsar Evloev is also, really good kickboxer as well. And Diego Lopez, he held his own in that fight in so many different ways. Really great UFC, short notice UFC debut. I think this fight against Gavin Tucker is probably going to boost up his career a little bit. I think he's going to put on a good performance against a guy with a little bit of a UFC resume. I'm going with Diego Lopez this week. Next up, we got Dustin Jacoby and Kennedy Nzechukwu. I'm not particularly fond of Kennedy Nzechukwu because he's put on some really poor performances in the past. Like his fight against, I think it was Nikolai Negamarianu. I didn't enjoy that fight at all. But since then, he's gone on a 3-fight winning streak. All finishes since then over guys like Jan Kutalaba, Carl Roberson, Devin Clark. He's moving up a little bit in competition. Dustin Jacoby, on the other hand, he's 3-2 over his last 5 losses to Khalil Roundtree. I don't know if you listened to the episode of Joe Rogan with Sean Strickland, but I think
he hates Khalil.
Yeah, he hates Khalil. He says he's like a huge pussy and like a feminist and everything. That was very funny. But so just based off of that, because Dustin Jacoby lost to Khalil. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm going to take Kennedy Nizichikwu, though. I think since the Nikolai Negumereanu fight, he's coming to his own a little bit more. He's developed a lot more skills, whether it be on the ground and, on his feet too. He's really long. He's really, really big. He's the younger man here. He's in his early 30s at 31. Maybe he's coming into his own now, like hitting his prime as an athlete. But he's really good at using his length. He pops off the jab. He's got really good kicks, like teep kicks and body roundhouse kicks. He's really good with his kick game. And he's shown that he's able to lock up a couple of submissions if that's what it comes down to. So I'm going to go with Kennedy Nizichikwu, the African Savage. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, you summed it up pretty well. A couple things that I would add for Kennedy Nizichikwu is, he's on a 3-fight win streak following a 2-fight losing streak in which he had that close battle with Nikolai Negumereanu you didn't particularly enjoy. But the Carl Roberson fight, the Jan Kutalaba fight, the Ian Kutalaba fight, and the Devin Clark fight all show that he has the ability to go out there and finish guys, whether that be a knockout, whether it be a submission. And Devin Clark is a guy who is strong in his grappling. So to be able to go out there and get him in a guillotine choke and get that win, I think is just a testament to Kennedy Nizichikwu, his coaches, and his effort level being put in here. He's 6'5" for 205-pound division. I mean, that is just a massive man. And at 31 years old, like you said, I think he is coming into his prime, and that's when you want to see him on a win streak. Dustin Jacoby, on the other hand, at 35 years old, that's not when you want to be on a losing streak. To get off the schneid against the guy who's up and coming in his prime and really starting to rise is not where you want to be. Dustin Jacoby has had, I think it's been a decision in each of his last 5, other than his win over Da Un Jung. Which Kennedy Nizichikwu does have a loss to Da Un Jung. I think these are 2 very different fighters at the time. And I think Dustin Jacoby now has been a little bit tentative with his stand-up. He's not that much of a grappler. He can sometimes maybe push you up against the cage, but he's mostly a kickboxer. He's going to want to throw those leg kicks out there. He's going to throw maybe some kicks to the body. He's going to jab right straight, not too much overhand, not too much looping things, just kind of a little bit more of a cerebral fighter, I guess is putting it nicely. But he just doesn't throw a lot of volume. And I think against a guy like Kennedy Nizichikwu, who could throw volume, is also shown to be a little bit more reserved as of late. He throws powerful leg kicks. He has the ability to put you away. I mean, just the frame of this guy alone tells you that he has massive power. But then now he's showing us that he can also submit people too and have a degree of intelligence doing so, some good fight IQ. I think this is lending itself to be Kennedy Nizichikwu's fight to lose, considering all of those things. And the fact that he's only minus 140 makes me really want to hammer that line too, because I think this might even be a minus 200 fight. I feel really confident in Kennedy Nizichikwu, considering that he's got the ability to get it done wherever the fight takes place, and Dustin Jacoby really doesn't. They're on opposite trajectories. They're on opposite sides of their prime. I mean, tell me what I'm missing here that has Dustin Jacoby near even.
Nothing. Hammer Kennedy Nizichikwu.
7-inch reach advantage. Like, this is ridiculous for a guy who knows what he's doing.
Wait, bro, what is Kennedy's minus 140, bro? I gotta take that. This is gonna be like a 5-legger now.
It's gonna be a juicy parlay.
Yeah, I'm excited for this fight. Jessica Andrade and Tatiana Suarez. Jessica Andrade, she was pretty active there for a little bit. I don't know. I mean, she really hasn't taken much time off, right? It's only been a couple of months.
She's taking literally no time off. 1 year and 9, 1 and 3, 6, 5, 2.
Yeah, no time off. She is making she wants to make a little bit of a push towards the belt. Tatiana Suarez, 9-0, undefeated, in general, and undefeated in the UFC, has beat some pretty solid names too in the past. Alexa Grasso, Carla Esparza, Nina Nunez, and then Montana De La Rosa just a few months ago. But all of her other wins came 4 years or more ago. Really great wrestler, great ground game. Montana De La Rosa is also really good on the ground. That was probably a good little tune-up fight for her. Tatiana Suarez, she's been highly touted for quite some time. I don't know exactly why she was out for 4 years, but yeah, she was gone. Now she's back and she's lighting the world on fire. So, and Jessica Andrade has shown that she's pretty susceptible to high level wrestling and jujitsu. So I think Tatiana Suarez takes this fight relatively easily. She's a minus 435 favorite. 3-rounder. She could submit Jessica Andrade. I think it's less likely that she ground and pounds her out because Jessica Andrade is tough and she's good in her guard, like avoiding shots coming down from up top, or she can be. But
and I don't think Jessica Andrade would really like to be pounded out. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Hey yo, yeah, that's a good one, zinger. Yeah, Tatiana Suarez by submission is my pick. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with you. Jessica Andrade is starting to be known as the short notice fighter. She comes in and whether she's prepared, not prepared, she's like, hey, I'll go in and I'll scrap with anybody, which is a really admirable mindset. I'm sure she's making bank from stepping in on short notice in all these main events and going in there kind of almost like a sacrificial lamb like she did with Erin Blanchfield. Tatiana Suarez, 9-0, 8 of them happening a good time ago. She had a knee injury in 2021. That is what also delayed her comeback, but she came back and she submitted Montana De La Rosa in phenomenal fashion that give us no questions about who she might be in that time off. So I think 32 years old, still kind of in her prime a little bit. She's going to be the taller fighter here. She's going to have longer limbs to be able to wrap up Jessica Andrade. And I think Andrade, I would have said she's really hard to finish, especially by submission. But Blanchfield was able to do it and make it look easy. So I have no idea why Tatiana Suarez wouldn't be able to at least do it. Maybe she won't make it look as easy, but I think she'll definitely be able to do that. That opportunity is there. There's always an opportunity for Jessica Andrade to go out there and knock somebody out. But I just think Tatiana Suarez at 9-0, she prepares very diligently for each one of these fights. I wouldn't expect her to go out there and be reckless. It's always harder to get those knockouts in women's MMA too. So it's not necessarily something I want to bank on. With either my money or my pick. So for all those reasons, I think it's just a little bit I think it's a little bit more far-fetched to assume that Andrade's going to go out there and be able to dominate the grappling heavy Tatiana Suarez. To lay, even for Jessica Andrade, my hopes and my prayers in her knocking out Tatiana Suarez, someone who's never been knocked out before and is typically pretty defensively savvy. It just seems like a little bit far-fetched for me. So I'm going to go with Tatiana Suarez here. Minus 435. I wouldn't bet on it just because women's MMA is crazy. That's a heavy line to put on any female fighter. Jessica Andrade, she's coming in on short notice. But again, she was supposed to fight Vina Jandiroba, which I think was probably an easier win for her than Jessica Andrade because Jessica Andrade is a wild card coming in. I mean, it's the same style of fighter, if you will. I don't think, the pounding out would be much of Vina Jandiroba's cup of tea either. But, there has been the thing where the more testosterone-laden fighter generally comes out the victor. We didn't see that as much this past weekend, but I have a sneaking suspicion we may not see that as much this upcoming weekend. I think Tatiana Suarez is going to take it.
Yeah. I think so. If anybody could, potentially come in on short notice and knock somebody out, it could be Jessica Andrade. But like you said, not banking on it. The more sure bet is Tatiana Suarez just using her wrestling and her jiu-jitsu to get it done. She's got a hell of a resume too. A lot of her old wins have aged really, really well.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I think she took a lot of people out before they had a chance to really get good. But she's, solid of herself. And if she's been training through that knee injury, there's no reason to think that she hasn't improved or stayed the same. And she's 9-0. She hasn't shown us any particular glaring weaknesses in the past. So for all those reasons, it's going to be harder for Jessica Andrade to step in on short notice. And the other thing too is, Andrade is going to have a little bit more of a ground game than Vina Jandiroba. But I think in terms of the stand-up, I think both of those two fights were going to be against stand-up fighters, is how you would maybe classify them. So you would imagine that she's already had somewhat of a training camp that's going to help her in this fight too, in terms of the opponent they were getting ready for. So I think it leans the Tatiana Suarez route.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. All right, main event time. Let's get to it. Corey Sandhagen versus
our guy.
Yeah, we met Corey Sandhagen at
Nice
288.
guy.
Yeah, really nice guy. Super friendly. Met up for like a quick second. Told him,
Real genuine eyes.
yeah, and a genuine handshake as well.
Yeah,
And
he was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I'm like,
yeah,
"Thanks for asking." He seemed like he
acted like
really
he
wanted to
wanted
know.
to be there. He acted like he wanted to be there, and like,
Yeah.
there were some other guys like that too. Like I remember like Terrence McKinney was there. He was really cool, and Kevin
Kevin
Holland was
Holland
like
showed up out
wanted
of
to be there.
nowhere.
Yeah, those guys looked like they wanted to be there.
Mhm.
Like Corey Sandhagen looked like he appreciated us waiting on his line, which was cool and super nice guy. I can't bet against him
Mhm.
in this fight, at least. I could against other people, but minus 275 for a reason. He's got a lot of advantages over Rob Font. He's just upper echelon at this point. Corey Sandhagen, he's up at that top tier of this division, and he's sitting up towards the top of a lot of killers. Rob Font has some good wins. He's also got some bad losses as well. We all remember when he got his face picked apart by Cheeto Vera. MMA math doesn't always make sense, but just the performance that Corey put on against Cheeto, I think MMA math checks out this time around. Like with what Cheeto did to Rob and what Corey did to Cheeto. Corey could out wrestle him. He could out grapple him on his feet. The clinch game is really good for Corey. And just his striking is so dynamic. It's all over the place. It's creative. It looks like controlled chaos. I think more so almost than like a Justin Gaethje type of guy. I could see Corey Sandhagen actually potentially someday, like if he doesn't actually hoist like a true championship belt, which maybe he doesn't. I could actually see them doing like a bantamweight BMF and it being like Corey Sandhagen up there. He's just great.
Yeah, I would say Sandhagen reminds me of the fighter who goes out there and he has fun and he genuinely enjoys it as like an art,
Yeah,
almost in a way like Max Holloway does, or some guys that get really like obsessed with it. Where I feel like he's like, oh, you do this and you throw the elbow, and you throw the elbow to set up this other thing that catches up 2 rounds later. Like he really
right.
enjoys the art and the creativity that comes with striking, and he's shown an improved ground game and ability to keep the fight where it is. He makes people fight his fight because generally speaking, he's going to be the longer guy. In this fight, he's actually not, but he just uses his length and his reach really, really well. He mixes things up from the kicks to the punches, varying up on the target. It's really hard for people to know where it's coming from. And even guys like Cheeto Vera, who are really good at making those reads, just could never get going against Sandhagen. And that's a testament to Sandhagen switching up, whether he's coming forward, moving back, going side to side, giving you a leg kick down low, giving you a leg kick up high, jabbing you to the body, giving you an uppercut. Like you just never know what's going to, he may clinch engage you, give you a knee, spinning elbow off of that, push you away, come back, head kick. And then, before you know it, he's just giving you all these different looks, all these different styles. He's somebody that just flows. And I think that that's really the best way to describe him, is very flowy. It just kind of makes sense. It looks effortless. And he's in there just kind of like doing some math, doing these quick calculations and just piecing guys up. And when you're Rob Font, I don't think you're going to have nearly the level of timing or the speed or the power for one to finish Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen has a great chin. He's just going to keep coming. That's if you can touch him. Rob Font might be able to touch him a little bit with that good jab. But I think ultimately you're going to see Rob Font's face probably swell up a lot. He's going to look like Cheeto. This probably will get finished if Rob Font fighting Cheeto and then Cheeto fighting Sandhagen is any indication. Typically, you can't do MMA math, but in this one, I'm going to say you probably can, considering all three guys are stand-up fighters. Rob Font is a very one-dimensional game. He has some solid grappling if he chooses to use it, but he rarely chooses to use it. And against Corey Sandhagen, it's going to be nothing. So I think Corey Sandhagen is going to put on a clinic when it comes to the striking, be able to implement his game plan, whatever he chooses it to be, whether he has one laid out or making it up in the moment because he's just kind of creative. I hope he sees this because this is just ultimate praise on him. And Rob Font's a really solid fighter. 36 years old. I just think he's, at this point in his career, he's probably losing something more than gaining something. And, he had a good win over Adrian Yanez, but to compare Adrian Yanez's level of striking and overall MMA ability and competency to Corey Sandhagen is just unfair to Corey Sandhagen. It's a little bit of a disrespect. I mean, Corey Sandhagen, like you said, top of the echelon, cream of the crop. It's just a shame that there's a couple different guys up there that just have his number. Maybe that'll change one day, and definitely a candidate for that bantamweight BMF if it ever does become a thing. And you just kind of look back at Rob Font's last 5 wins. wins and last 5 opponents. Yeah, he lost to Marlon Vera. He lost to Jose Aldo, who's retired. He lost to Cody Garbrandt, who should be, or he beat Cody Garbrandt, who should be retired. And he beat Marlon Moraes, who is retired. So when you look back on these lists, the age of these opponents just doesn't look good. And of course, yeah, the win over Frankie Edgar, good. Like he got a win over Frankie Edgar. If you fight Frankie Edgar at that point in your career, you should get a win over him. You should finish him with a flying knee. And he did do that. So he's passing all these tests. The loss, TJ Dillashaw, split decision, really, really close fight. TJ Dillashaw's that guy. At this point, he was trying to make a comeback, trying to go back towards the belt. This was a good fight. And I think the other thing about Sandhagen is that he's learning, he's adapting. Even doing the show, Keith, for about like 2 years or so, we've seen a couple different iterations of Corey Sandhagen, from the Corey Sandhagen who was the young kid on the block to the Corey Sandhagen who's saying, I'm going out here and I'm trying to kill everybody. I'm trying to, I'm thinking terrible thoughts, to now the Corey Sandhagen who seems to be a little bit more zen, and he enjoys kind of the artistry and the creativity and the flowiness of martial arts. He's piecing it all together, and you get to watch that sort of that career character arc of him just really come into his own. He's only 31 years old. He's entering his prime. I'm not saying that a bantamweight strap is outside of his future. I think it's absolutely there. And I think he's good enough to where if you fight anybody on any given night, you fight him 10 times. Yeah, maybe that's the one where he loses, but he's also got 3 or 4 others in different timelines or whatever where he does win. So he's good enough that he is right there, man, and he just needs to have that one break go his way. As far as this fight goes, I think we're going to see a Corey Sandhagen clinic, and it's going to be fun to watch unless you're a Rob Font fan or family.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, you want to do the pick rundown?
All right.
Let's do it. All right, so I'm going to take Jake Hadley over Cody Durden. He's in the parlay I'm building. Billy Q over Damon Jackson, also in the parlay. Kyler Phillips in the parlay over Ione Barcelos. Taking Ignacio Bahamondes over Ludovic Klein. Tanner Bozer over Alexa Kamer. Not so super confident in that. I'm going to put Diego Lopez in the parlay. I have him winning over Gavin Tucker. And I also put Kennedy Nzechukwu in there too, over Dustin Jacoby. And I'm gonna add Tatiana Suarez. You know what? I'll just add the last 2 as well. Tatiana Suarez over Jessica Andrade and Corey Sandhagen over Rob Font. That's a couple of legs right there. I'll put it together, and then I'll tell you
together while I give my picks. I'm pretty sure they're going to be the same as your picks, so I don't know if I need to run back down them again.
Plus 1526.
Yeah, throw 5 on that for me because I like that parlay. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think, Jake Hadley's going to get the win over Cody Durden, Billy Q over Damon Jackson, Kyler Phillips over Ione Barcelos for reasons we went, went 5 to win how much?
15 to 25 to win $400.
All right.
Yeah.
That's actually not that impressive when you consider the amount of legs it is, but regardless, main card, I'm going Ignacio Bahamondes, Tanner Bozer, Diego Lopez, Kennedy Nzechukwu, Tatiana Suarez, and Corey Sandhagen. I think your locks of the card are Kennedy Nzechukwu, Corey Sandhagen, and potentially Diego Lopez as well. Yeah. I like those 3 guys a lot. To get it done. I think Ione Barcelos still's got a fighting chance, so I wouldn't call him necessarily a lock. Billy Quarantillo, he's a wild fighter, so it's really hard to call wild fighters a lock, although I do feel very confident about him there. And Jake Hadley, he's coming in off, I think he's coming off of his first loss. No, that was a couple fights ago. So, yeah, I feel good about him too. So yeah, that's why we're going with a parlay. But hey, thanks for joining me on a Monday night to talk this card over. We've covered some good ground, a lot of different areas. I guess Keith's frozen, so not a bad time for him to freeze. At the end of the day, it's the end of the card and it's the end of the show. So with that, thank you everybody for watching. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Pickin Winners. You could also follow us individually at Pickin Fights. Tom is located right here. At Pickin Keith is down there below for him. And if you are on the go and you don't have time for a YouTube video and you don't pay for YouTube Premium, go ahead and give us a follow on Spotify. You can get the full video there. Let me go ahead and remove old Keith. Here's new Keith. Keith, anything you want to say back to the people before we head out?
Yeah, thanks for being here.
All right, everybody, have a good evening and enjoy the violence.
Well, Tom.